I think this team is very capable. All 5 leaders have very solid experience in their own ways. For example, Li Cheng worked as a provincial leader in 4 provinces in China, actually 4 different regions, from Hebei, Heilongjiang, and Shanxi, and Guizhou. He also, in the past 5 years, served as a chief of staff for President Xi Jinping and escort him for both domestic and international trips. And it's a very capable leader, well experienced, well connected, and know the grassroots of China. The second leader that we talk about, Wang Yang. And Wang Yang, as we know, has a great reputation as a liberal economic administrator. He has a solid experience running 2 major cities or provinces in China, Chongqing and Guangdong. And also, he spent many years in the State Council, first as the Deputy Secretary General of the State Council, more recently, for the past 5 years, as a Vice Premier of the State Council in charge of economic development. And the third person is Wang Funing. As we know that he was a law professor and the Dean of Law School at Fudan, and really served as a brand for top leaders like Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and Xi Jinping. And he actually contributed a lot of theoretical thinking and the ideas like Three Represents and Harmonious Society, and also many other new ideas. And he very familiar with the Western academic circles, speaks French and English. And so that it's really very symbolic as the think tank leader now moved to be the top leadership. And the next leader is Zhao Leji, as we know that he advanced his career from the inland China, particularly in poverty-led provinces such as Qinghai, but also worked a long time in Shanxi, and certainly contribute to the poverty reduction as one of the major goals for Xi Jinping for the next 5 years. And finally, Han Zheng, and he worked in Shanghai for the past 40-some years, and served as all kinds of administrative positions. He is seen as a very capable financial and economic technocrat, and it's a well-connected, well-respected in terms of the business world. And so again, this team represents really a large number of the bureaucracies and also different regions. So I think that's the important things. And also, if you look at the lower level, and a lot of people enter the Central Committee, these people have a solid experience in economic administration. Many of them, like Ma Xingrui, Guangdong governor, like Zhang Guoqing, Chongqing mayor, like Yuan Jiajun, Zhejiang governor, they all entered the Central Committee as 4 members. And many of them in 5 or 10 years will move to the top leadership. These people all serve as CEO of the major state-owned enterprises, particularly in aerospace. So that's a new profile. And also early on, when I mentioned Wang Funing, along with people like Liu He and also Beijing new mayor Chen Jining, they all have a solid Western experience, serve as a visiting scholar. In the case of Liu He and Chen Jining, get their advanced degree from Harvard, from London School in UK. And so this is a new profile, and it's very, very impressive. Now, the second question is, compared with 18th Party Congress, what kind of development should be expected? Now, the first 5 years for Xi Jinping is to consolidate his power, to clean up the corruption, and also to pursue much needed but very tough military reform. And that's his priority. But also along, he will pay attention to the major power relations, and also propose the One Belt, One Road initiative, because make sure that China will be surrounded in a more conducive environment, not caught in a war or in a conflict. These are all very, very important, preoccupied Xi Jinping and his leadership team. Now, that explains to a certain extent the third platinum that outlined the reform, market reform agenda, not sufficiently implemented. I'm not saying that nothing happened. Actually, a lot of things happened, like the consumption, domestic consumption is up. service sector is up, innovation become a driving force for China's economic development and really impress a lot of people in China and also outside China. But nevertheless, that some of the market reform plan is still not fully implemented, and also China's market opening to the outside world raised some concern whether China still be the huge market for foreign companies, especially like IT companies and also the financial sector development. I hope the next 5 years China will stimulate domestic kind of private sector development, continue to emphasize small and medium-sized enterprises, especially in service sector, more emphasis on green GDP, at the same time to promote the market access, fair trade, and service sector development. We see this time that the Zhao Leji is emerged as the anti-corruption czar, replacing very powerful, no-nonsense Wang Jisan. I think that we will see a different kind of style. As we know, Wang Jisan is very tough. Zhao Leji is more soft-spoken, and Zhao Leji probably will rely on more institutional development, especially new institutions, whether it be rule of law leading group, or will be the newly established national supervision institution, and etc. So the campaign emphasis will be a little bit different, and the style probably also will be different. So of course that Zhao Leji is a very capable leader, and, but each leader has their personal style. That personal style also reflects the top leader's interest to emphasize one area rather than other. Now, in terms for Xi Jinping talk about the more much tougher management about the political system, especially Chinese political leaders. I think that's a good policy because people look at the party very, very closely, and corruption really will undermine the public confidence about the leadership. So Xi Jinping wants to emphasize these things. I think that it requires more institutional development, and the norms, regulation, the rules, and also internal check and balances. So really make sure that if someone pursues corruption, there's some means, a method, whether it be different leaders or whether it be institutional arrangement and whether it be institutional check and balances will work. And finally, these leaders, as we know, they are all in the similar age and born in the 1950s. Chinese call them fifth generation, although officially never use that term. And interesting enough, there's no sixth generation leader, such as Hu Chenhua entered Power Bureau Standing Committee. I think that that reflects some of the concern that maybe the previous model, 10 years for generational change, 5 years to identify successor, is a little bit rigid, or maybe will undermine the top leader, General Secretary's power. But does not necessarily mean that succession is not important. I think it's very, very important. But this could be arranged in different ways. Let these younger leaders, and maybe more than one, to be tested, to get more experience, and to get more popular among the general public, among the leadership, and etc. So I think that maybe we will see some kind of more clearer, like to identify some of the rising stars. And so I think that probably makes sense. And the important thing is that succession is still in the agenda, but you look at the overall change, especially the composition of the Central Committee and also composition of the Power Bureau, at least they all follow the age requirement. If anyone who were born before or in 1949 this time or retired. So that itself is important. As we know, if you look at the provincial level leadership, they are already dominated by those who were born in the 1960s, namely sixth generation, although those who made the Power Bureau, only 4 or 5 of them, or just like born in 1959, also consider very close to that generation. So actually, I'm not that pessimistic. I think that China is still in the search of the best way of governance and also the more Chinese-style political succession. I think that I trust that the leadership as a group will find the best way to make sure that the China's policy, domestic and international, and continue, but at the same time, there's always new blood introduced in the party, like what happened, this party Congress.